Hello, my friends. Welcome to the latest edition of Here's What We Know, the podcast of unexpected conversations. And we've been doing hundreds of these, so you know I have a soft spot in my heart for authors. And here's an author. She's been writing for a while now. I'm not going to say a long time because she's still young and supple, but she's been writing for a while. Her name is Beth. I want to say Castrodale, and
Yeah,
I
that's right.
never take for granted. If you do what I do for as long as I've done it, it is amazing how people will pronounce names.
Yeah, no, I can believe it. I could totally believe it. I used to be a newspaper reporter, and the other thing was getting people like, don't ever assume a spelling is correct. You have to spell things are spelled in all kinds of ways, that you won't expect, and you
Gosh,
know,
I went to college in Alabama. My first job outside of school was in Louisiana, and my first day on the air, I was talking about we were doing this appearance at Richard's 66. Richard. And you should
oh,
have heard all of the crazy Cajuns calling me up to
oh,
question my heritage, my intelligence. It's the whole thing. So I just go ahead and assume if you can mess it up and it doesn't hurt my feelings. When somebody goes, oh, you say it this way, and they don't say it because they're afraid, nah, you're not going to hurt my feelings.
right.
So I'm just like, we're gonna see what's going on. So you got into the newspaper business. Was that by design, or did you? I majored in English lit because I didn't know what else to do, right? And everybody I knew hated their jobs, and so I couldn't figure out anything. And I scored well on the ACTs,
Mhm.
and for those people who still take those, and so it was just the path of least resistance for me. How about you?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I always knew that I liked writing since I was a kid, but then I thought like, you know, I feel like I have to get a job, and back then when I was in college, there was still a decent amount of journalism jobs, and I thought like at least it's a way I can write and make a living off of it. So, I did that, and I'm glad I did. I mean, I didn't end up staying in the field, but I think a lot of the skills that I got through journalism were really great and helpful. So, but that was my route, was just trying to get a job,
Well,
basically.
I didn't want to go into because I was in radio. I didn't want to go into radio because it was fun. And as I said, everybody I knew hated their jobs. I thought you had to hate your job. And you and I, we both lived through what we can see now was the end of the true glory years of those professions. Right.
Mhm,
And it's changing. And I'm not the bitter old man going, get off my lawn.
mhm.
Life is all about changing. And it's a lot of cool things. But we got to live in that fun time where it still mattered. You could make a living and you could make a difference.
Mhm, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely, and I still think, I mean, I have friends who are still in journalism and are doing great, great stuff, but you're right. I mean, it's definitely like, it's not a given that if you study journalism or, probably radio journalism in college today, that you're going to have a job opportunity waiting for you. You have to kind of make your own opportunities, right? And
Yeah, that's the
um,
that's the new thing is you have to create your own path,
yes,
right?
uh-huh.
And I was sitting there over the, when holidays come up, my kids are like, "Hey, you're taking the holidays off." I'm like, Dude, it's no, I'm not a W-2 employee anymore." You know,
Right.
dad takes time off. That's money out of dad's pocket.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You know it. I mean, you're like respecting your using your radio roots, but you're doing it in a new way, right? That
I respect you guys who can write. I try to write, I'm like, and that's the beautiful thing about today's society, right? Is that you have access. You can create access to your thoughts. And so I do stuff on Substack where I'll write columns and stuff. And out of all the creative stuff I do, and I do videos, I do interviews, I do a streaming radio show, I do all this stuff. You guys who can write, that is the hardest thing I do. For me to sit down and write a 2 or 3 page column, it seems like it should take you 15 to 20 minutes. And it will easily take me anywhere between an hour to 2.5 hours. And it goes by so quick because, it's stabbing you in the head, is what it's
Mhm.
doing. You said you had a love of writing. Really? Was it more of a love of reading or was it a love of writing?
Yeah, to me they're so intertwined. I think it started with the love of reading, like just the words and stories, loving that. But I totally agree. I mean, I got to tell you, like, I still find writing to be very difficult, and I feel like I totally Like, don't be self-deprecating and thinking that, like, I think every writer, I think, thinks it's hard too. And so the choice, though, I think for me, and as to why I kept pursuing it, is that I love the stories so much, and I felt like I loved reading, and I thought, like, even as a child, I felt like I wanted to kind of get involved in making my own meaning and my own stories. So and writing is just the vehicle that I use for that.
See, that's such a different path because I love reading too. Uh, I devour books and audiobooks now. I'm telling you, you're a runner also, right?
Mhm.
Do you listen? What do you listen to when you run?
I gotta tell you, I listen to podcasts. Like, I don't listen to audiobooks for some. I have to read a book for some reason. I can't do audio, but I listen to all kinds of podcasts and news. What about you? What do you listen to?
You know, it's so funny because I hope that you'll listen to this podcast on one of your runs one day. And if you're out there running, you're doing your run right now. Hey, Beth, how you doing? Good to see you again. Keep up. Come on, 6 minute miles. You can do it. Uh, I love the audiobooks, right? Because I don't want to when I listen to podcasts, I'm there to learn. I really am, right? And when I'm running, I listen to audiobooks because I want to be distracted from the terror that is running, right?
Hmm.
The best part of running is always stopping. Is there any better form of superiority when you have your run out of the way and you're riding back from the trail and you see somebody running to the trail and you're like, sucker, I'm dead.
Yep, I know the feeling. I know
And
the
so I
feeling.
listen to audiobooks because it's wonderful to be distracted. And you can catch the whole thing, but you're not trying to necessarily learn something. And again, this is why Beth is smarter than I am. If you're wondering, there's a natural reason. You can see it right there because she's learning with her extra time. Hey.
Oh, I don't know. I think audiobooks are great. I have so many friends who love them, and I think for me, like, I am a ruminator when I read. I like to have the words so I can go back and reread a paragraph. Like, I won't just necessarily read in a linear way. I like to circle back and reread, and I like to have, sometimes I find a voice of a narrator too gets in the way of how I see and envision things in my own mind. So I like to just have that private experience with the book. So
That's cool. Now, have your books, because you've written, let's see, what are we up to? Are we up to one, two, three, four, five books that counting at least? And
yeah,
we'll get around to those too.
one of them is a self-published book, but the other ones are traditionally published. So I traditionally published my fourth book, but there was one that I self. So
Go
altogether
River,
five.
right?
Yeah.
Uh, Go River, I think,
Yeah, you're
was
right. Exactly. Good memory. Good. Yeah.
on your self-published on that, which is very cool. Now, have any of them been turned into audiobooks?
A couple of them have. Yeah. My debut, the first book that I had traditionally published, Marion Hatley, is an audiobook. And then the first kind of like suspense novel I wrote, I Mean You No Harm, is an audiobook too. So yeah, and I'm really glad. I mean, I think I'm so glad that those books are out there. My latest book, it hasn't happened. It might still, but it hasn't happened. But I
Were
would
you
love that.
involved in the selection of the narrator?
Well, it's funny that my first book, Marion Hatley, I did the narration of it. So I was the
Really?
narrator.
So only nobody could bring the pathos of trying to figure out the perfect corset to life other than your voice.
I hope so. I mean, it was a learning experience, but for I Mean You No Harm, my publisher had me listen to they tried out different narrators, and we kind of picked the voice that felt right. And I love the woman who I thought she did such an amazing job. She had so much feeling in her voice, and from radio, right? It's so important to have somebody where the voice matches the spirit of the text, and the
It is such a different skill set. Just because you do radio, and again, it's the same thing. Just because you can write an article on the meeting of the city council doesn't mean you can write a book. And the same thing with radio. Just because you can go, hey, it's 7:20 and it's sunny today, it doesn't mean you can do the video, the audio narrative. And I am obsessed with great audiobook narrators because it
Mhm.
is a completely different game. And how they do it is just crazy. And just same thing. I've had audiobook narrators on as guests and stuff. I had Scott Brick on, who in my opinion is the best there is in the world. And hearing how they do it. And everybody's just like writing. Everybody's got their own little proclivity. But
Mhm.
I would love to write a book just simply so, and I'd love for it to be a big hit so I could be in on the choosing the audiobook narrator.
Yeah, I bet you would have a very discerning taste in that, given your experience and I don't know if you have an opinion on some audiobooks have different voices coming in to narrate different parts. Do you have a position on that or how you?
I'm not a fan of that because that's radio drama.
Yeah,
Right?
okay.
I mean, that's the way it used to be when radio first started. They would do the serials and stuff. And now you're getting into an audio play, which is fine. It's fine. But there's something about how a great narrator can inhabit all the parts.
Mhm.
And then there's because you and I are going to go down rabbit holes because Beth, that's what I do. Uh, like you take two of the best, in my opinion. Ray Porter. Ray Porter will give every person their own unique voice. And it's amazing. Then you take Scott Brick. Scott Brick will be kind of the same voice. There'll be one or two that sound different, but usually just about everybody in the book has the same voice.
Mhm.
But he interprets it so well that you know exactly who it is. Dick Hill, legendary. Dick Hill, everybody, he just talked like nobody else. Look him up sometime. He just talked like nobody else. That you would think listening to him for 30 seconds, you go, there is no way. Until you listen to a book and then you're like, oh my gosh, I want that guy to read everything, right? Because it was so peculiar, and it is. I love it, and I haven't had a chance to read all your books, but just when I read books now, I try to start envisioning who would be it,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
and I so what is the name? Jillian. She was the Gone Girl, right? The movie Gone Girl. She was the star.
Right.
She's so good. And the inhabitants, when I was reading the clips and stuff of that, I'm like, man, if you can get her,
Oh,
gosh,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, she would be good. I could see her. I
it's
could see her
amazing.
doing it.
She's one of those who gives different voices and she changes them just a little bit and a little tweak so you know exactly who's talking to who.
Yeah, that's a real talent, isn't it, to for people who can do that and make you feel like you're in the different characters' points of view.
How do you write different characters' points of view to get into your nuts and bolts? I mean, are you the there's the plotter and the pantser, right? So and explain to everybody what a plotter and a pantser is because I know you know.
Yeah, so to in the strictest sense, a plotter likes to have a sense of maybe an outline of the story or an arc, understanding an arc, or maybe they understand maybe beginning, midpoint, end point before they begin writing. And a pantser is just like by the seat of the pants, like you go along and as you write the story, it unfolds. So I am definitely, I am a fan of having a rough outline because um, I like to have just a north star as I work because I find that it really does help me to kind of stay on track and hit sort of important tick points and plot points in the story as I go. And inevitably, I do not stick to the outline. I feel like one of the magical, wonderful things of writing is that you get into a story and that it kind of goes off in a way that you don't expect. You're like, oh, this is so right. You have to be open to that. But I think the outline kind of gives you a little, like, tells you where to steer a little bit. And um, one of the things that I'm talking about going down a rabbit hole, but I'll just say that
That's
one
what
thing
we
that I
do. Like I said, go down as many rabbit holes as you want. There is a zillion podcasts with Beth on them, and she'll go into the nuts and bolts of all the stuff she does. You guys know how we work. We love going down rabbit holes. So feel free to go down any one.
Oh, good, 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 good. Well, I guess I would just say that, I really, one of the things that I think is really important, I think especially in suspense, and, I just wrote a horror novel that has elements of suspense, but I think probably for any novel with an engaging plot is you want as a reader to kind of feel like you're not things aren't sagging in the story, that, things are kind of moving along. I mean, sometimes I've had this problem where I'm writing and I'm like, I'm just adrift. And I feel like, I feel like the story is losing its thread and there's not a sense of tension that pulls the reader forward. And I feel like something with a little bit of plotting and outlining makes sure that you're getting to those bits and pulling the story along. And but I think that it's a matter of striking the balance between having the plot points, but not over planning, giving yourself enough leeway to discover, have that joy of discovery, but also making sure that you're not going to let readers down with something that just sags and drags for the reader. So
Do you have to start with the end? Do you have to know the resolution?
no, I don't. As a matter of fact, for the inhabitant,
Really?
the end came to me. I kind of had a sense of where I saw things going in general, but the very end of the story, came out of, I think I was actually running when I thought of it. And I thought, oh my God, I just thought of it. And I think that's it, and that probably happened when I was 3/4 of the way through the draft of the novel when I had that idea. So,
Is that
um,
scary? Is that scary in hell? I mean, when you're starting writing and let's say you're 200 pages in and you haven't figured out how to wrap it up yet. I mean, how
it's
how
funny.
does
I
one
know
sleep?
where it's going. I kind of have it. I know where it's going, but the very end has a little bit of a surprise, I'll say. So that kind of came out of a surprise to me. So,
You know when you're at the end? Do you know? Do you know when it's at
oh,
the end?
oh
Because that would
God,
be the hardest part to me, right?
yeah.
Is to go, okay, now, because again, this whole story is in your head, right? And there's always an addendum, always. How do you know when it's like, and I know you reach out to editors and stuff like that, but there's a point, it would seem like you having this experience and also being talented, having to have the faith in yourself to go, no, no, we need to end it here. Do, do you know?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I feel like in a way, whenever I end a novel and I turn it over to an editor or submit it, I feel like I've done all of it that I think I can do. But inevitably, I feel like I look at books I've already written and I think, oh man, maybe I could have done this differently. I feel like it's never really, no novel is ever really done, but it feels like, okay, I feel like I've taken this as far as I can take it and I need to let it go. And as you say, get feedback on it from editors and peer readers and so forth. But I never feel like, oh gosh, it's all tidy with a bow and I'm all done. I never have that feeling ever. So
How long did it take for you to let go of the ego? Right? Because it's very personal. You wrote this. And when somebody goes, I don't like this, or you need to get rid of this chapter, or you need to change that. I mean, these are your creations. Was it easy to do? Did that come from a newspaper background with it? Or was it hard?
It's funny, like, I have so value. I gotta tell you, like, it's hard for me to be like have my back up about that stuff because I'm so grateful to thoughtful readers. I feel like, I mean, so many, I can't tell you how many times I've been like, oh man, you're so right about that. How did I miss that? Or that's such a good point. And I feel like in a way, maybe it is like journalism. You go to all your stuff goes through the copy desk. You get calls from, the copy desk at, 10 o'clock at night asking you questions. You have, just as you're coming up in the world as a writer, you really have to be able to learn to listen to criticism and integrate it somehow. So I feel like in a way, I mean, sometimes it's hard to hear. Like sometimes you'll, maybe a character that you're really invested in, people are like, oh, I don't know, it can hurt a little bit. But I think once you step back from it, really constructive and well-formed criticism is just your ally. I mean, I don't think you can really, I couldn't personally do without it. So
And it's so interesting because, like, for me, people ask, do you listen to all your stuff? And I've been doing this a long time. No, because once I've done it, I've done it, and I hate this word, but I'm going to use it now. It's authentic, right? Because when I've done it, I've done it. What I learned is early in my career when I would listen to it and try to critique it and try to figure out I should have done this and I should have done that. I did. What I started doing was performing for the future me,
mhm,
right? So that I would be happy with how he heard it,
mhm.
and it took it away from the people I was talking to and who I was talking with. So for me, it was almost a different. I had to back away and go, here, I'm gonna put it out there and you do whatever you want with it. But this is how it's gonna work for me. And
Mhm.
I'll listen to some people, on the radio and stuff, and I'm like, well, you're performing for future you right now. I can
Mhm.
hear it. I can hear you doing, oh, and then I said that and I did this and I made sure I did that. And it was hard to let go of that control. And I find it fascinating. I know another author, I talked to him and he goes, he hires people to read his books. And he said, I'll fire you if you don't find something wrong.
Huh. Wow.
Right. Because he wants to make sure and that's just the way he works. You know,
Right.
it's again, I am fascinated by the creative process and you creative types. It's just, and writing has just got to be so daunting. And like I said, I've had so many authors on, and I find each and every one of you so damn interesting.
Oh, well, thank you for I mean, I'm sure I appreciate your interest. I'm sure they do too. I mean, especially, it's flattering, especially when you probably learn we're such an introverted crowd generally. I mean, we don't generally, talk a lot about our process or, that it's being able to talk about it is enlightening. And I mean, sometimes even just talking about it, I think, oh, you figure things out and you appreciate things that you wouldn't when you're just in your own little, introverted world. So,
It has to be. It has got to be that and composing music, and I'm talking like orchestral stuff, has
mhm.
to be the most singular endeavor you can go with. You can't have somebody trying to bounce around each sentence. Now, songwriting is different, right? Because you guys can, because I talk to a lot of songwriters too. A lot of you
Mhm.
can tell music in my background, and that can be a collaborative effort. But when you're sitting there trying to write a novel, that's just all you. That is just, and what's the O.L. Moore Leonard thing? It's the easiest thing in the world. Just get up, cut your wrist and bleed every morning. You know,
Right.
bleed onto the
Right.
typewriter. And it's all you got to do.
It's true. I mean, it is. I always like that quote from him. But what's really it's funny about it. But like, I don't have to buy an expensive instrument or recording stuff. I don't have to buy paints or it's an inexpensive endeavor. You can say that.
Can you imagine what it was like for people in the 1900s? Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens had to write everything out by hand.
No, I can't even imagine that. Yeah, I can't.
Oliver Twist was written in hand. Tale of Two Cities was written by hand.
I can't even using a typewriter seems awful too, doesn't it? Where you couldn't go back and easily fix and move and change things and you
But
know
you just sit back and think of, War and Peace.
right, yeah.
Think about that.
It's
That was,
incredible, and if you ever look at those old, handwritten scripts, I'm like, there's hardly anything is crossed out, everything I just like, did it just come out of their heads fully formed in these beautiful sentences, and I don't know,
yeah, it is. Necessity is maybe, necessity may be the best form of creativity.
right?
Right? Trying to get everything right and stuff, but I would think they would have to redo it, right?
Yeah, I think you're
They would
right. I'm
have
sure
to.
that's true. Yeah, I'm sure that's yeah, because if you look at typescripts of novels, from like Hemingway or Faulkner, you do see a lot of, crossouts and so forth, but you're right. Yeah, I'm sure with the handwritten stuff, they rewrote it too.
That's some words. I mean, Hemingway, I try to explain to my sons Hemingway because my one son just had to read Tolkien, right? And he goes, he uses so many words. It's 4 pages to talk about something that happened 30 seconds in the world, in this world he created, you know. And I said, well, it's just that's the way he saw things. He was creating this vibrant world and he wanted you to feel and smell and taste everything. I said, by the same token, you'll read Hemingway. Hemingway assumes that you know. So he's going to just take a sentence to talk about something that was probably an hour long, right? But that's the
Right.
beauty of that's the richness of literature that you do get to find out that who can you remember the first book that you read that made you go, "Oh boy."
Gosh, boy, I'm trying to think of like, going back in time. Um, I think, like, for me as a kid, I always remember liking I mean, I like to tell scary stories, but, I remember there was a book called Gus Was a Friendly Ghost, I think that was it, and I just remembered that it was like, it was funny, it's about this ghost who was left alone in a house and all he had was his chains to clank around, and he ends up making friends with a mouse who lives in the house. And I just remember, for some reason, it really took me as a kid because I thought seemed so sad and lonely. And then he meets this mouse, and they share like cheese together. And I think it was a kid, it really moved me because I thought like, I think there's times, especially when you're a child, where you feel isolated or alone, and you feel like sometimes books are your companions, and the characters in books become your companions. So I felt very much like Gus was my friend, and I wanted to be his friend too. So I have that memory.
I it was a book called Brandywine's War, and it was, I think, one of my sister's books, and it was about this during World War II, and these guys fighting and all the and it was hilarious. I had never read a book and literally could not stop laughing,
Oh, I've never
right?
read it. I'll have to check it out.
It's not a hit. It's on nobody's thing, but
Oh,
it was the perfect book for me, and I had to be about, I don't know, 8, 9, or 10. I probably shouldn't have been reading the book, but I just found it so captivating, and I saw these characters in my mind, and it was, I didn't know you could read something, and have it make you laugh.
mhm,
I'd never had that experience, see Spot run, Jane look at Dick, that's it, but
right.
then to have something that just so captivated you, that's the best thing. And that's the one thing I love about, that's the hard part about when you're running and you're listening to an audiobook, and either it makes you laugh so hard while you're trying to run, which is not nearly as bad as something that makes you cry while you're trying to
Oh,
run. That
yeah.
sucks out loud.
Yeah, that's happened to me a couple times. I don't know if you had it where you're worried that, like, people are gonna see you and worried that you're having a problem, you
Here
know?
coming
Like,
an
I try to
episode.
hide myself so people aren't worried about me when I'm running.
It's okay. It's
I'm
okay.
okay.
He came to the tour. It's okay. I'm just happy. These are happy tears. I love that. Let's talk about the inevitable end of life. Once I leave this earth, I can't do anything for my loved ones, but I've just learned by pre-planning a funeral or cemetery in advance takes the guesswork out when death occurs suddenly and your mind is clouded with grief. Dignity Memorial can help. My friend Tina Skurla pre-plans funeral and cemetery arrangements so loved ones don't have to. They're North America's largest provider of funeral, cremation, and cemetery services. They're dedicated to getting every detail right, and they do that by listening to you. I know it's a hard subject, but I also know we all see the sense and value of what Dignity Memorial does. Use the promo code Gary to get 25% off at Willow Glen Funeral Home. Reach out to my friend Tina Skurla today. She's committed to helping families not go through the tragedy of loss alone. Click on the link, use the promo code Gary, or email her at dmppatinaskurla.com, or call 408-398-7050. Again, because I do want to hit a little bit, and there's places you can find more in depth about all the books, and I encourage you to, and go to her website, and it's just fun. I find the topics, because yours are, you seem to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, kind of a one-off author. Is that when you write a subject, now you're done with it. These characters, you're done with it. You don't do sequels. Is that a conscious decision, or is that just the way is just the way the world has presented itself to you so far?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like I I feel like I like to keep myself entertained as a writer, so I feel like moving on to a new topic is kind of it's like going on a new adventure, you know? And sometimes I've had people ask, "Oh, would you ever think of writing a sequel to X?" And I thought, "Well, maybe, but I have new ideas all the time that I want to pursue because it's part of the adventure of writing." And that being said, I totally admire and, people who can have series and they have that central character who keeps going, and I've enjoyed series books myself, and I totally respect that. But I think for me personally, I mean, who knows? Maybe at some point in my life I'll do that. But I feel like right now it's just sort of the freshness and adventure. That being said, though, like when I finish a book, I do have kind of a grieving period because I realize I'm saying goodbye to those characters in that situation. And I do get moments of feeling like, oh, it's kind of sad, like, so I don't know.
Have you felt the tug from the characters? Have you ever felt the tug going, "Hey, there's more here that you need to write about"?
Yeah, there's one. I mean, I don't know. Like I've had people there's one book with Marion Hatley where people have suggested that book there's she goes on to a new life and they're like, what about that new life? Like, and I thought, oh, maybe, like there might be something there, but mainly it's like I'm pretty much like forward focused. Like I'm like, I usually have an idea about what I want to do next, kind of floating around in the back. And then so when I finish one book, I want to kind of go move along. But
Because and there's a lot of research involved for your books, right? I mean, and some people don't. So that's the reason I bring this up. Some people are just, no, 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 I've got it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put this situation. We're going to go from there. And they'll say right up front, listen, I'm just making all this up. These are not facts. This is me just making this up in this world. But it seems like with the stuff that you do, because like in the ground, guy works in the cemetery, you know, and you had Marion Hartley and the corsets, like I told you,
yeah.
the inhabitants and the architect and all this. And there a pretty good amount of research. How much research do you typically do for each of the books you've written so far?
It really varies. Like the inhabitants, it wasn't too bad because, a lot of the stuff it dealt with sort of typical tropes of ghost stories that I'd read a lot of those. So I had that kind of running, going into it running. But I would say that like Marion Hatley, I did a lot of research on corsets and the status of corset making around the Depression
I did
era.
too when I was a teenager, but it was with a catalog, and let's not talk about that.
I can understand. I know where you mean, but there's also in that story there was a veteran of World War I, and I went back. There's some battle scenes. There's some scenes in World War I that I had to. I spent a lot of time. The Library of Congress has journals of soldiers who served in the war, and they are incredibly detailed. So, talk about going down a rabbit hole. It was really amazing just to read these journals of people who served and then
Go
at that
down that
time,
with you on it.
incredible
We
detail.
we've lost horror that is World War One. World War One, and they had a term called shell shock. And no, it wasn't. It wasn't traumatic stress syndrome. It wasn't PTSD. It was the never-ending sounds of bombs going off
Mm,
that literally changed the way those kids survived. And let's be clear, when we talk wars, we're talking kids,
yeah.
right? And World War One just gets a short shrift of how horrific it was, and the mustard gas, and living in a hole for months at a time. Just yeah,
Yeah,
that's another one of those rabbit holes I'll jump down with you anytime.
no, I mean, what you said about mustard gas too, that was a theme. Like the veteran in the story suffered from he was almost killed with gas, so he has ongoing scars and he's dealing with that. So that was a whole other line of research that I was doing about those biological warfare, essentially the dawn of biological warfare. And so that the research on that like really was significant. And the cemetery book, I actually spent time with the grave digger to kind of get a handle on that job, and that was fun.
How weird did he think you were?
He was so cool. I mean, he was like he was the one who had some weird stories. Like, he would talk about how he talked about the cemetery gets weird at night. Like, we have people, out here like people doing voodoo rituals and all kinds of stuff. So he had all kinds of stories for me about then stuff that would go on in families where people would disagree about where a loved one's body should be buried. So they end up exhuming it and moving it all over the place. Like all these kind of crazy, he had more crazy stories than you could write about. But
Well, as I and think about it, when you're growing up, we used to try to scare ourselves to death. I grew up in a little small town in Alabama, rural, and one of the things we would do is go out to the cemeteries at like 11 or 12 at night and lay on top of a grave for 5 minutes to see what happened, because because we were idiot kids, and it's what kids do. But man, we would go to the abandoned churches, and there were plenty of abandoned churches that had, these old creepy pianos and stuff like that. Now, nothing ever happened in that scenario. I don't have any good teenage ghost stories. My favorite ghost story, what my favorite ghost stories are? The people who call, you
Oh,
know?
you mean like on the
Got
strange
the
phone
phone call.
calls? You mean yeah,
Right, you
yeah.
get the phone call and it's like, "Hey, it's Uncle Harry. Let me speak to your dad. Oh, he's not here right now. Tell him I called." And then you find out Uncle Harry died an hour before.
Yeah, those are creepy, aren't they? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or someone shows up at someone's house and they haven't seen for a long time, and then they say, "Hey, I just saw Aunt Betty or whatever." And they said Aunt Betty died like an hour ago. That kind of stuff. Like those are creepy.
Isn't that the hard part about trying to tell a ghost story is to try to get it creepy enough? I mean, because you and I talked about it. I remember the Telltale Heart and reading that. And my problem with that is it never got creepy enough. It kept telling me it was going to get creepy, but it never did. I
Yeah,
know, hate me, all you Poe fanatics. It's okay. It's okay. But and I have no interest in the jump scare movies. I don't want to have somebody
I don't
jump out,
either.
you
Yeah, I don't
know,
like them.
but that creepiness factor,
Right.
that's where the money is.
Exactly, sort of the anticipation of something scary, or there's kind of things lurking. You sense that something's lurking in the shadows, but you're not quite sure, what it is. And yeah, I'm with you. I don't like jump scares. I don't like bloody, gory stuff. I like more psychological terror or horror. Just where you're sort of there's uncertainty about what's going on, and
Well, Sixth Sense, right?
yeah, that's such a great movie, and a very tragic movie too, right? Talk about crying in the while I'm running or whatever. Like, that's
And it is, and it's, trying to find out, and because we all so hope, and I have faith. I don't hope, I have faith. My faith, as my pastor in a recent sermon said, faith is the certainty of hope. That's what faith
mhm.
is. And so it's those little creepy things. I'll share a little creepy thing with you. So as far as not a ghost story, but it's kind of stuff like that. So they had the landlines right back in the South, and we had a thunderstorm one day, and my mom's on the phone. Lightning hits the house and the phone, literally knocks her 10 feet.
Mm.
She's out, right, and she comes to a couple of minutes later, and she proceeds to tell us what all we did. She goes, "I was on the ceiling looking at you."
No way.
True story. And she told us all what we did. She was like, everybody in the house, she told us where we were. And, houses built in the 60s and stuff were all small rooms. So it's not the open space like we're used to
Right,
now,
right.
right? So everybody was
Wow.
compartmentalized. And so she was telling everybody what they were doing. And this is another, it's a follow up on that because I think it's kind of a fun story. Uh, it's fun and tragic. I've made peace with my grief. Understand this. My brother had a terminal disease, and I called him a couple of weeks before he passed. And he was sitting there, and he wasn't feeling well. I said, "How are you doing?" He goes, "I'm good." I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm just sitting here with mom and dad." Now you need to know at this time our parents had passed.
Oh.
And I
Oh.
said, "Really? What are they doing?" He goes, "Well, mom's sitting here on the bed with me." I said, "Okay." I said, "Where's dad?" He goes, "He's sitting across the room." Now you have to understand, my father was a bit of a train wreck. And it made so total sense that he would be removed, but still wanted to be there. And I said, "Tell him I said hello." And he pauses for a second and he goes, "Okay." He said, they said hi. And I'm like, "All right, well, let's just move on about the rest of the conversation." Right? Kind of. It's like, because I couldn't tell you, he was on a different plane of existence than I was right then.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's come on, what's your favorite ghost stories? Come on. Do you have any of those weird, freaky times?
It's funny. I have like I have not had a lot of like creepy. The only like the one thing that was weird and unsettling about that happened to me is that when I years ago I was a reporter at the Cape Cod Times, and so I lived on the Cape, and I was in an attached apartment. I guess what you'd call like an in-law apartment
Yeah.
on my landlord's house, right next to the ocean. It was a beautiful. You could hear the ocean at night. It was wonderful, great place. But what ended up happening was, I would go to work, and this happened just a couple of times. I went to work, and the window upstairs, the casement windows, which I kept sealed tight all the time, were wide open, and this thermostat was turned wide, all the way up. And like the only person who had a key to my apartment was the landlord, and they always let me know when if anyone was going to come and go. And as a matter of fact, that day, my landlord said, "Do you mind keeping the windows closed? Because we just were worried about rain getting in." I didn't have the guts to tell him like, "Oh, some weird thing." I just felt like he would think I was crazy, and so whatever. I closed the windows, and then about a week later, it happened again. So, and I worked with a woman who goes, "If you want me to come," like she goes, "I can come bird sage in your apartment or whatever to try to stop that." And I was like, I was kind of skeptical, and I said, like, "Oh, let's not worry about it." And it ended up not happening again, but it was just kind of weird. Like, it felt kind of like it almost felt like someone was pranking me. It didn't feel like a personal scary thing. It almost felt like, where people talk about poltergeists or, that kind of thing where someone's just pulling a prank on you. But
I was explaining to my kids because they were like, I'm infamous around the house because if something's downstairs and I need to go do it at night, I just walk downstairs without turning the lights on. And makes my kids go, "What? You're weird." And my son was asking me that. And he goes, "Aren't you afraid?" I said, "No." And he goes, "Why?" I said, "Because if there are ghosts, if there are on the other side," I said, "do you know how many relatives I have who love me?
oh,
And they wouldn't let anything happen to me. That if the bad people wouldn't come seek me out, it's the ones who love you. They're the ones who would seek you out." I said,
yeah,
"So, I've said it before. Because my brother passed, and I was playing golf one day, and I was playing by myself, which is a rarity when you get a chance to play by yourself. And I'm playing by myself, and I could feel him with me.
yeah.
I have no way to do it because we would play golf every now and then together, and I could feel
Oh,
him with me. And I was like, "Hey, I'm glad you're here." And I said, let's see what I can do. And it was this weird hard shot. I had hit it over water onto the green, and I'd put in so many balls in that water. And I hit it to about 2 feet. It's an amazing shot. And his name was Mike. And I'm like, "I am so glad you were here for that."
oh,
And it was that feeling that there's something on the other side. I think there's so much to do in eternity. Only the people who truly would love you who would want to come back. Because there's too many other things to do and see, and there's
yeah,
I got all eternity to set because I want to spend the day with my great 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 grandmother and find out what she was like. So
you
there's
might have
lots
that
to do.
chance. Like it's funny. I mean, another little angle, like that when you're asking about ghost stories or whatever, like when that I personal experience. I One thing I thought I would do for my book is write some nonfiction articles. So I thought, why don't I just for the hell of it, like I've never been to a medium, why don't I go visit a medium? And I did. I visited, or I talked to one, and the way I described it. It was like going to a housewarming where no one. I didn't know any of the guests. Like she would describe someone like, "I don't know who that is," and "I don't know what you're talking about." And toward the end, I think she was getting a little impatient with me because she's like, "Well, sometimes if you don't believe it, people, like whatever." So the next, I thought I'm going to try one more medium, and I went. I did a lot more research. And vetting, and this particular medium, she had like a 6 month wait list, whatever. But I got on the I got it to talk with her, and she had some uncanny things. Like she described like things about my parents. Like she described the wedding ring of my mother's that I wear in my hand, and I kept my mother's a red sweater of my mother, and she said, "I know you have." She appreciates that you have the red sweater, but you should maybe not let. I mean, these kind of things. So I've always been
Wowzer.
somewhat of a skeptic. I've always been a rather skeptical person, but this kind of made me think that maybe there's some truths that are our human consciousness can survive our bodies somehow. So it could very well be that what you're saying about your brother and all this stuff, right? That there's
And it makes it fun to read,
yeah.
right? And for you, I mean, where did you get the idea for the inhabitants? Where did that come from? What was the organic story on that?
It's funny. I've loved ghost stories, and I used to write them when I was a kid, and I've always wanted to write one as an adult. So, but I don't know why it took me so long to get around to it. I think I was intimidated, like maybe I wouldn't do a good enough job, but I've always wanted to write one. And then for this story in particular, I had an idea of the house being a main character in the story. The setting has to be a main character. And this house, I saw it as built by an architect who believed his creations could influence the mind. And I thought, what better protagonist to have than an artist? Because she would be visually attuned and sensitive to the architectural details. And so I got this idea of creepy house artist, and then it kind of ran from there. And there are other layers to the story beyond that, but those are kind of the early seeds of the story that I went with. So
You missed out on a research opportunity. You should have come here to San Jose, California, and went to the Winchester
oh, I've
Mystery
heard all that.
House.
I've read about it. It's fascinating. Have you gone in there yourself?
Oh gosh, plenty of times.
Oh, you
I've
have?
Oh yeah, because you got to remember, I've done radio here for
Oh,
a long
sure.
time,
Yeah. Right. Right.
and since the '90s, and I've done so many promotions with the Winchester Mystery House, including midnight flashlight tours,
Oh,
right?
wow.
And it was a big house, but the truth of it is, nowadays it wouldn't be the biggest house in San Jose, you know? I mean,
Right.
because she built it, it was weird, it was fun, and there's a lot of little proclivities and stuff in there, and it's grandiose, but it's in the middle of a little shopping center now where the movie
Oh,
theaters and
wow.
restaurants and yeah, so it fits quite easily in a little city block. And it's just crazy about that. But it would be fun for you to go through and because the same thing. And there's different theories, but everybody says she's always trying to build more rooms to ease the spirits of people who had been killed by Winchester rifles. But there's the competing theory is that bad times, bad economy, she would find ways to keep the people who work for her employed.
Okay.
So
Oh,
she constantly was building on to keep them employed because it was
okay.
rough times and at that time here in San Jose. And so there you go. That's the other side of the Winchester Mystery House. But
It's a good
it's so
story
fun.
either way. Either
You're gonna
telling is
kick that.
good. That there's like I saw the was it the Helen Mirren's movie about it where
Yeah.
she did I think the Winchester rifle thing factored in there her guilt, over the
Yeah.
deaths from the guns and everything. So I thought
That's
she
what
was great.
but she was a
But
tiny woman. She was like 4'10".
oh, wow.
She was very, very small. Very little bitty thing. So
Man, it's
it was
hard to I guess people were shorter then too, right? Even by those standards, she was probably a tiny person even
She was
then.
tiny, and some of the stairs, and especially because she got arthritis as she got older, so some of the stairs, the steps are very small, which makes it tough if you're taking a normal gait. It's very hard so there you go. It's another rabbit hole. Winchester Mystery House. Let's check that one off.
Right. That's a good one.
It's fun. I have so enjoyed it. Again, you have to go to the website, and we got the link here, and click on that and check out. And she'll, because it's self published, she'll actually send you the Gold River book.
That's right. Yeah,
So
if you sign up for the email list, you get a copy of that. So
see, I
that's
think so. And just to go off a little bit more off topic, because I obviously I do my research and I love thing, and you've done so many of these. I love the kid you did, and I think he was from somewhere in Africa where he was just so happy to have you on. Do
Oh,
you remember that one?
yeah. I love that. He
Right?
was so sweet, so
He
sweet.
was. Have you gotten used to this yet?
It's
Is it
funny, like
something that do you have fun? Do you look forward to it, or is it? And listen, it's It's a necessary part of what you do now. It is. It just is.
I
But
enjoy
I,
it.
I
I mean, I
always look for
do.
people on the other side.
No, I do enjoy it, and it's funny, like, I'm a pretty introverted person, but on the other hand, like, I've had jobs in publishing where I have to do, like, presentations and public speaking, so I have, done a good amount of that, but I like this better than public speaking because it's a conversation, so I enjoy it. I mean, I think it's fun, and I mean, I always enjoy, like, I think that yours, I appreciate how your questions and how well prepared you are. Like, I've had good luck with people who are really they are very engaging, and they've been great interviewers. So I always appreciate that. So
You're very kind. But like I told you when I asked you to be on the show, I will do my research, but I have zero questions because I don't know where we're going to go.
right,
we're
right,
we're going to talk about mustard gas, World War I, and Winchester Mystery House, and
right,
playing golf with your dead brother. I mean, that's where we're going to go. It's
right.
it's going to go all over the place. Are you already planning the next one? Are you already doing your research and getting everything ready for the next one? Because that's the hard part. Is the next one.
Yeah, I'm actually. It's funny. I'm nearing the end of the first draft of a new novel, so I'm getting too close to that. So I'll have to go back and do a lot of revising. But yeah, I'm already getting to the end point, and I'm actually thinking beyond that to yet another book. So yeah, it's
Guys, I don't know how you. I don't know. You have to be a very ordered person. My wife puts on events for one of the big tech companies here, and she works 4 years in advance.
oh, I bet.
So the meeting today is, well, San Diego, the event we're doing in San Diego. Well, we're in a meeting tomorrow, and we'll talk about the event in 2 years in Las Vegas, and the event 3 years. So you have to be so, and you have to be that way to do what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think I am like a planner, and I am. But it's funny with I also find that my brain needs fallow periods too. So even if I'm pretty steady about the work, sometimes I just need to like my brain just kind of shuts off and I need to kind of just chill out and go for a run or just kind of have downtime to let my you probably find this too, right? With your work that sometimes you just need to shut things off and let your mind have a break or it's kind of regenerating in a way. So,
Is it running for you? Because running is just a necessary evil for me. It's not regenerating, but I love to
yeah.
go play golf. Or even there's days when it's just been a very intense mental day. Where I'll tell my wife, I'm going to go over to the golf course and just literally chip and putt and have a cigar
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
I just need to like turn off from creating anything and
Yep.
thinking about anything. And and you know as well as I do in running, if you stop thinking, that's when you get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
you have to be careful, but I agree. I mean, I think, like, you're for you, like, the being on the golf course, like, absolutely whatever it is, like, that you need to do. Sometimes I don't know if like, I like to just go on a nice long walk too or whatever, but whatever your place is where you feel like, "I'm not gonna commit to anything other than just chilling out." Like, I think we all need that, no matter what we do and how we create or what we do. I think that's important.
well, good luck on your next novel. I'm on your email list now, so I will check it
Oh,
out,
thank you. Oh,
and
yeah, and thank you
I
so
look forward
much.
to it. And again, if you need any help choosing an audiobook narrator,
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
I'm your
that.
boy. Not to,
I
no,
might
no,
take you up on
I'm
that.
not trying to get the gig. I don't want to be the narrator. I want to help you.
Oh, thank you. I so
You're gonna go,
appreciate
hey,
that. I mean,
hey Gary,
it
who do you think? I got people. I got a list of people. I don't know if we can afford them, but this is what we're gonna go with. All right, Beth.
no, I love that. I mean, I would appreciate your thoughts and advice, definitely. And I appreciate the interview too. I've really enjoyed it. So
Beth, thank you.
thanks.